And welcome to Superhero Stuff You Should Know. I am once again the man who knows too much about Batman, and here with me is my co-host.
It's Andrew, everybody. Do you even know what the fuck is going on? It's ready. It's time. It's fucking, let's do it. Fucking Batman. Englehart, right? That's what we're talking about.
And down below is...
It's me, Zachary Jackson Brown. And you know what, Andrew? When I said Batman, I meant forever.
Yes.
Very good.
Yes.
I love that.
We finally
you
got
learn
to
from
say
the
it.
best.
So we have a very special exclusive episode for you guys, which is a look at one of the script treatments for what would have become Batman 1989 that very few people have read. In fact, we call this episode the Batman movie treatment from 1986. So we can pull up that art there from beautiful art by our very own Zachary Jackson Brown doing the Keaton art. So
you're seeing more of the upgrade in the YouTube, but we will keep this podcast friendly as well, everybody.
Exactly.
It's still a podcast.
So, just to go into it then, this episode is a sequel to our most popular episode on YouTube, the Batman script from 1982. And for those who don't know the development of this and where this fits in, or maybe you haven't seen this episode, I'm just going to do a quick recap, which ties into what we have to talk about anyway, because this episode, as well as the beginning of all this, ties into a comic book writer named Steve Englehart.
Oh, shit.
Now, in 1977, Steve Englehart wrote an arc in Detective Comics and teamed up with artists Marshall Rogers and inker Terry Austin that we have dubbed Strange Apparitions. It's Englehart who claims that this arc is the basis for what would become the 1989 Batman movie. Now, back in Halloween, we did a whole episode called Is Batman 89 a Ripoff of Strange Apparitions? Once again, art by Zack, with that Joker, the vampire Joker there.
Yeah, it's all right. It was okay, man.
It was okay.
I mean, it's like whatever.
And then sometime after that, because keep in mind, this arc is from 1977. Sometime after that, though, it's Michael Uslan, the producer of the Batman movies, who begins his 10-year journey to bring Batman to the big screen, and those are the scripts we covered in the Batman script from 1982 episode. Uslan himself writes a treatment called Return of the Batman before eventually helping to hire Superman the movie writer Tom Mankiewicz on the script that's simply called The Batman, hence the title The Batman script from 1982. This was written around 82 to 84, and Gremlins director Joe Dante was going to direct it and was interested in having John Lithgow join and be the Joker. A lot of people say that Bill Murray and Eddie Murphy would have been Batman and Robin in the script, but
yes.
I haven't heard any evidence that connects them to this specific script by Mankiewicz. Just putting that out there. It seems like that was connected to a comedic version, but the Mankiewicz version is completely different.
Okay.
So after Mankiewicz's script, Tim Burton's brought in, and he and his girlfriend at the time, Julie Hickson, wrote another treatment that was pretty insane that we covered in this episode. Still not what the studio was looking for, and that's when they bring in the original writer of the comic run Strange Apparitions, Steve Englehart. In 1986, he writes these two treatments that we're going to go over today, and he's been on the record saying that the 89 movie is based off of the treatments and his original Strange Apparitions run, claiming that the credited screenwriter Sam Hamm based everything on his work. So, for those who've been with us for a while, you would also know the next one, and after this is the infamous masterpiece that is Bob Kane's The Return of Batman treatment.
Man, we are just chuckling in that photo, man. Just a bunch of chuckleheads.
It is comedic gold, yes. So, Bob Kane took a crack at a treatment after the ones that we're going to go over, but we also have an episode on that. And then we finally get to Sam Hamm writing that draft, as we covered in that episode, and Hamm himself is returning to the Burtonverse with the Batman 89 comic book that's coming out pretty soon. So, again, Englehart claims that Hamm sort of took his arc and his treatments, turned Rupert Thorne into Boss Carl Grissom, played by Jack Palance, and took Silver St. Cloud and turned her into Kid Basinger's Vicky Vale. We decided in our episode on Strange Apparitions that the movie wasn't really based off of Strange Apparitions, but I always wondered about these treatments he was talking about. All we had were a couple sample pages that are on his official website, and we have a transcript of the ending of a second treatment that he gave out in an interview. But we were lucky enough, because we have some fantastic fans, we were lucky enough to have a fan write to us who had the script treatments and sent them to us. And our big thanks go to that fan who wishes to remain anonymous on that. But with the 89 comic coming up...
Thank you for that.
Yes,
that's crazy. This is how it's Superhero Stuff Pod exclusive, right?
Yeah, it is, because this has not been gone over by anybody before. So big thanks to you out there. And of course, with the 89 comic on the horizon and Michael Keaton coming back in The Flash, we decided it is time for us to dive in and follow up on our popular episode from the Batman script from 1982, way back in 2019, which is pretty much the unofficial pilot for Superhero Stuff You Should Know off of the Superhouse podcast, I would say.
Indeed.
So, let's go into it. There are 2 treatments, as I said. So basically, both of them are both called the Batman Movie Treatment by Steve Englehart. And the first one is dated March 21st, 1986. We open not with the death of the Waynes, but with the death of the Graysons. Yes, indeed. So Andrew and I covered this a little bit in a Patreon for we did the whole dive into the origins of Robin episode, but in Englehart's original opening in the circus show in Gotham Garden, which is like the Madison Square Garden for Gotham City, the Graysons are on the trapeze when John Grayson starts laughing and laughing harder and laughing so hard that he drags his wife Mary down and they fall and they succumb to the effects and they die in front of their son Dick Grayson. Yeah, I know. Dick is wearing an all-red costume, as you can see in this comic book panel, which will become Robin's red vest, according to Englehart's treatment. Now, this is one of the first instances, or the first instance in history I could find, where someone said Dick Grayson's acrobat costume is meant to foreshadow his turn as Robin. Because we see this all the time now, especially, Batman Forever, they're flat out wearing the Robin suit when they're up there. But
so you're saying Englehart's a genius.
He is somewhat. Great comic book writer. Kind of has some bold claims in terms of what took stuff from his, but we'll get into that. But Dick Grayson sees the death of his parents, and lo and behold, who shows up but Batman?
Yeah, indeed.
And Batman, of course, meets the event manager of the Gotham Garden. This is not Haley of Haley's Circus. This is Silver St. Cloud. So this is how Englehart sort of ties Silver St. Cloud into it, is that she's the one who is tied into the circus, which I thought was very smart. Batman also meets Dick Grayson at this point, and Dick Grayson demands to see the bodies of his parents, and Batman, who can of course relate to this, allows him to do so, and as he does, he has his own flashback to 16 years earlier in 1970, when he and Thomas and Martha Wayne were walking back home from, quote, any Warner's movie from the period that evokes high adventure. So, again, let's remember.
And has 10 plus brides.
That's right.
That's a Bob Kane thing. But yeah,
that's true.
Let's remember, Mark of Zorro had not been established quite yet as the movie that the Waynes saw. That was established in The Dark Knight Returns, which was published the same year, but that was a Frank Miller idea. So,
it's Excalibur to me from now on, though.
Thanks to Zack Snyder.
Yes. I'm done with Zorro. It's all about Excalibur now.
Here, watch this movie, young Bruce, with all the blood and gore and some incest with Morgan Le Fay.
Yeah, why not?
Englehart has details that the movie is a reward to Bruce for getting straight A's in school, sort of planning the fact that Bruce is very smart. And he says the Waynes are wealthy but prefer walking with people to riding in a limo. So they'd rather walk than sort of flaunt their money to everybody. So I thought that was an interesting... Yeah.
I gotta say, this is really solid so far, though.
Yeah.
Real solid.
But who killed the Graysons?
Well, we'll get back to that.
Crazy
Zach.
Quilt.
You gotta be patient. Gotta get back to that.
All right.
They were laughing, man. Who do you think is in this picture?
I don't know. Ten-eyed man.
Zach's like, they were laughing at Crazy Quilt. They saw him and they just couldn't take it, so that's how they died.
I would like to see Crazy Quilt in live action.
Oh, yes.
Maybe in Suicide Squad, the next Suicide Squad movie from James Gunn.
Shit, why not?
We can only dream.
Already doing Polka Dot Man,
That's true.
Englehart has kind of a fake out here where it says, quote, crazy street bum comes up, but Thomas deals with him humanely. Now, I think this is interesting because I think dramatically, if you know or you're in on the Batman mythos, you think, oh shit, it's going to happen, and then it's a fake out. But I also think if you don't even know that, it kind of plants who Thomas Wayne is in traditional continuity. He's the philanthropist type. He's the nice guy. He's not supposed to be. He's not the Thomas Wayne from the Joker movie. He's the one who's going to, as he says, deal with it humanely. So I thought that was good. And also sort of makes you care about him right before he gets shot. And lo and behold, that's what happens. So they get confronted with a thug with a gun demanding Thomas's wallet. This is not the 1989 movie, so it's not the Joker here. It just says a thug with a gun. Thomas It says that Thomas tries to flip the wallet into the guy's face to sort of fake him out and, start a fight. And, people thought Jeffrey Dean Morgan's Thomas Wayne was quick to get into a fight. But this, as we can see, this has been planted before. In the original comic panel, Thomas Wayne is leaping at the thief, again, from the Bill Finger origin. So there's precedent for this. And he and the Joe Chill stand in, sort of struggle for the gun, only for Thomas to get shot. Martha screams.
If you're pretty sure you're going to die, you're going to take some chance. I have absolutely
well,
no problem with Thomas Wayne trying to defend himself and his family.
Yeah.
It's people that are against this idea, I just don't know about them.
I feel like this mainly came up because of that shot of Jeffrey Dean Morgan closing his fist in Batman vs. Superman. Yeah. But again, I'm like, that's right out of The Dark Knight Returns. That's in the comics. Just because this is the first time this has happened in live action doesn't mean that it's completely, it's discounted.
When did The Dark Knight Returns come out?
Same year as this. 1986 is a huge year for Batman in terms of the development of this character, because you've got the Englehart treatments, the Bob Kane treatment, and Sam Hamm's script at the same time as...
So who stole what from who?
Yeah, at the same time as Miller doing the Dark Knight Returns. But again, Bill Finger, as you can see in this original comic book panel, has Thomas Wayne leaping forward at the thief. So you could say they all stole it from Bill Finger.
That's true.
Okay.
We know Bob Kane definitely
have already been shot and he's just falling forward. I don't know.
As he's saying, "Leave her alone."
Leave her alone.
If you really feel like you're going to die, there's no way out of it. This is totally fine. This is perfectly acceptable.
Just throw your hat at them.
With a wallet.
Do something.
So right out of the comics, it says that Bruce gives the killer, quote, "the most intense gaze of hatred ever recorded." Which
wait a second. That would be a great setup if. Whenever he's thinking of throwing batarangs, he thinks of the time his dad threw the wallet. Damn. I mean, I don't know. It's something.
Yeah, I guess so. So Bruce gives the killer, quote, "the most intense gaze of hatred ever recorded," as the killer makes his escape without shooting the boy and leaves him alone with with his dead parents. We then go to the funeral. It says Alfred is 40 years old here, which again seems young, but that's because we're used to really old Alfred and a lot of
this is young Bruce 70. Too.
Yeah, and this is young Bruce too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Alfred, as determined by Thomas's will, is Bruce's guardian, which again is a newer idea because it wasn't really until the 80s as well that they decided Alfred has been there since the beginning. The very first time Alfred was introduced, he shows up around the time Batman and Robin are already operating. So this is a huge. Again, the 80s are a lot of stuff shifts when it comes to the Batman character.
Okay.
But Bruce, after the funeral, goes into a dark room, lights 4 candles, and says, "I swear by the spirits of my parents to avenge their deaths by spending the rest of my life warring on all criminals." Basically, the exact line from the Bill Finger comic. It then says, quote, "A sudden wind blows out the candles. The window curtains flare like a cape." And then the credits take place over the streets of Gotham. Before, presumably, we catch back up to present day at the circus where we find out who killed the Graysons. Zach, because I know that you were waiting on that.
That big reveal.
It seems really familiar, but I'm not sure.
Yes. So it feels a little TV show-like to me to be like, let me do this flashback, and then after a very long-ass period of time, we're back here. I'm like, okay.
That is a long, cold open for a film, for a Batman film.
Yeah.
The one that's going to change everything.
Yeah.
It's solid, though. I like this.
Yeah. So we're back at the circus. Dick wants to find the man who killed his parents, and the police arrive, and it's not just Commissioner Gordon, but this was a surprise to me, Chief O'Hara.
Oh, shit.
Chief O'Hara is in this. I believe this is the only version where Chief O'Hara shows up in any of the scripts leading up to the 89 movie.
He's not in the comics, right?
He's not. He was a creation for the 66 show. Funny enough, I think Englehart likes him, though, because he does put O'Hara in the Dr. Phosphorus opening of Strange Apparitions. So he is kind of a fan of this. O'Hara is not the Begora type of stuff.
He's like Eckhart in this version.
He's actually more of the Bullock type role where he disapproves of Batman. He doesn't like the fact that GCPD has to rely on this vigilante. So I thought that was cool because Englehart is like, yes, he's from the 66 show, but I'm doing something new with him. I'm doing something that fits this more serious take. So I think that was a good choice on his part. Batman looks at the rictus grin on John Grayson's face, which reminds him of a certain criminal who's been called the Joker, who's said to treat crime as a game. So there's your reveal, Zach. in terms of who it is.
Never saw it coming.
Batman has not met Joker yet, but he is going to go off and find out who knows anything about this. So he goes and he interrogates a criminal, and he hangs him upside down to find out more about the Joker. And the criminal only seems to know that whoever the Joker is, he's planning something big. And before Batman can get more information, the criminal's other goons try to shoot at him. So Batman drops the dude. Well, he doesn't drop him to the ground. He just, he doesn't kill him. And
Michael Keaton would.
He says, "Swear to me."
Batman beats all of them up, leaves, and when the criminal peers out the window, he sees that Batman is nowhere to be seen. A possible loose connection to the 89 thing where the mugger looks over, after I'm Batman, he looks across and he finds that there's nobody in the alley. But that's such a loose connection because that's such a Batman thing in general. That's not something the 89 movie came up with where he disappears.
Right.
I'm going to tell you something, Ben. When I was a very, very little kid, I thought that the guy that looked over the ledge and saw him disappear and started laughing, I thought that was the Joker. Even though I knew that you see him and it's Jack Nicholson and he turns, I thought that might have been Jack Nicholson too. I was very young, so I just didn't realize it was two different people, but I was like, oh, he saw Batman and now he's laughing. He's going to become the Joker, so...
There's also that fake out with the family in the beginning that they make you think is the Waynes.
That's true.
Oh, yeah.
So there's all sorts of that type of stuff. But yeah, next we meet Bruce Wayne. Bruce is identified as 27 years old. He's, quote, handsome, athletically built, and well turned out and urbane, not a fop. He is played as a separate character, not the Batman in disguise.
Mr. Mom, not a fop, he says.
Wow.
Let me just make sure I get that out there.
That's what Englehart says in the 1986 treatment, yes.
Not some pansy. Fucking man's man.
So Bruce goes to Gotham Gardens as Bruce Wayne and meets Silver St. Cloud for the first time as Bruce. Dick Grayson is still training in the background, and he's still at the circus as he wants the circus to go on. So this is a little different from tradition, since usually Dick Grayson, once his parents are gone from the circus, he's just like, I can't be here. But in this version, Dick Grayson is like, well, I gotta keep going in respect for my parents, because I have to have something to do. So that's interesting. During the conversation between Bruce and Silver seems attracted to Bruce and wants to see him that night at the performance because the circus is still going on after the deaths of the Graysons. But Bruce is all business and declines because he's basically here in Batman mode. He's trying to investigate stuff just in the guise of Bruce Wayne. Silver is shown to be charitable. She's donating half the profits to establish a trust fund for Dick Grayson so that Dick can stay at the circus. He has no other living relatives and she wants to take care of him. Now, I really like this personally because it shows an element of Silver that Bruce would be attracted to. Her compassion. Okay. It's something, because in the original arc, I'm just like, okay, I kind of get it. Silver St. Cloud, she's hot, but why is Batman in love with her? And I think Englehart gets
why her over all the other girls that will probably
why is it her that he's in love with? And I think he actually gets an opportunity in 86, almost 10 years after he wrote the original arc, to sort of flesh that out in these specific treatments. So I really like this element. It's an element I think was missing from a lot of the other versions where Bruce falls for a civilian that we've seen in the other Batman movies, where it's just like, okay, but why her? It's mainly just because she's Kim Basinger or she's Nicole Kidman. It's not really some strong reason outside of just the fact that she's the main female star of that movie. So Bruce then gets to meet Dick Grayson and expresses sympathy for his loss. And in a beat similar to Batman Forever, Dick says that he doesn't want to move. He wants to stay in Gotham because he wants to find the man who murdered his parents. Bruce leaves and comes back immediately as Batman.
Okay.
Now this is interesting because Englehart sort of fills in the gaps here, whereas Batman in the 89 movie has only been around for a couple months. Because remember, he says just 8 sightings in just under a month. That Batman is still relatively new. Here, Dick says Batman's been in Gotham for 3 years and apparently already an international celebrity. It also says he's already caught the Penguin and, quote, that really spooky Catwoman case. I don't know what's spooky about Catwoman, but in comparison to Joker, but okay. Batman brings up, his guilt that his presence may have attracted villains like the Joker, and that he feels responsible for the Graysons' deaths. This is interesting because the whole idea of Batman sort of attracting other villains, more colorful villains, a lot of people are just like, oh, that's the Long Halloween idea. But I'm like, there was that beforehand, and this is proof of that. It's in the 86 treatment here. Yeah. So Dick, in a reversal from Batman Forever, refuses to let Batman take the blame for the Grayson's death. So that's interesting. I actually find that kind of refreshing. We don't need this pointless guilt and angst. Batman kind of has a momentary feeling of it, or almost apologizes to this kid who he relates to, and Dick Grayson's like, no, it's whoever killed my parents. It's his fault for doing that.
Not a fault so far, Ben.
Yep.
This is Englehart's script. Not a fault yet.
Yep. Batman interviews him on his background, his athletic skills, his grades, and it's almost like he's screening this kid. And then he says, okay, maybe I can actually use you for an operative for stakeouts. If you want to fight for justice, if you want to help find the man who killed your parents, then let's work together. If you really
that means he's going to be Robin, Zach.
Yeah.
No. But he didn't say, also, I have these cute little green booties for you and a set of chainmail green panties for you to put on with a tiny little yellow cape. I don't know.
So how are we supposed to know then?
Yeah, it's not Robin. Just some kid.
He means the word Robin tattooed on his forehead.
There you go. My dad said I flew in like a robin.
I think we're on to something now.
Okay, so Dick agrees to work with him, and Batman's like, all right, then you've entered my world. And so he brings Dick into the Batmobile. And in the Batmobile, he blindfolds him, and they go on a little bit of a drive. And
he blindfolds a kid
and
takes him into a dark forest.
Batman.
It's not what you think, yeah. On the drive, he delivers all the exposition about like his origin, on how he became a crime fighter, but without revealing that he's Bruce Wayne. Basically saying, my parents were killed too by criminals, and that's why I do this, that type of stuff. And he goes down this paved road, and it says that there is like a corpse of a tree that drops on a pivot, and a metal roadway slides into place, like a hidden road. And that leads into the Batmobile entrance. So it's a little different from what we saw in the '89 movie, where it's like a hologram cave wall. So anyway, we get to the Batcave, and it says it has trophies from Batman's career. So it does not say that much about if there's a penny and dinosaur, but I think that's what he's trying to hint at. Which, again, I'm kind of like, it's cool that we see it, but at this point in his career, it would have been cooler if we saw how he got them. But
yeah.
Considering the fact that they very rarely made it into the movies anyway, I'll take what I can get. Anyway, Batman starts training Dick Grayson. Now, keep in mind, Dick does not know Bruce is Batman right now. He just thinks, okay, Batman's taking me under his wing, and he's training him specifically in, quote, the techniques of good shadowing from in front, from a moving car, and in Dick Grayson's future case, a bike. So
man, this rich guy is good at karate.
Again, he doesn't know it's Bruce Wayne. He just thinks that he's Batman. Dick wants to learn combat techniques. He wants to learn how to fight, and Batman says no. If you shadow well, you won't need any combat techniques. So he doesn't want to put this kid in danger in, a brightly colored costume so that he can put all the fire. He doesn't want to do that right now.
That's kind of interesting. Like, if you're good at sneaking around enough,
yeah,
let's get the ninja part down.
Pretty much.
And then maybe you'll learn, like, yeah, that's cool. That's like in the professional. The first weapon you shall learn is the sniper rifle.
Yes.
The last, the knife.
The best way to win the fight is to not get into the fight at all. That type of stuff.
Yeah. That would be refreshing to see in a Batman movie. Actually,
it sounds like the most reasonable version of Batman, who doesn't want to put a child in danger.
I will say this. Yeah. Englehart's Batman is usually a lot more, feels like he's more mentally healthy compared to, obviously, the Frank Miller version, but a lot of the just more popular interpretations. But even in the Strange Apparitions arc, like, sure, he goes through heartbreak with Silver St. Cloud and stuff, but like that's a normal part of everyday life. He's not having a monologue and flashback to his parents' deaths every 5 seconds. Like it's very different in it. So that's something that's unique about Englehart's Batman, and could be why Englehart sort of got issues with DC when they brought him back, was because his Batman didn't quite fit with their modern Batman anymore. Okay. So I think that's interesting when you look back on it and see he's the type of Batman who you would kind of want to be if you ever wanted to be a Batman. You probably wouldn't want to be the really tortured one that much, because it would kind of suck. You'd want to kind of have a little bit of fun with it and be somewhat reasonable and be somewhat healthy doing all this stuff.
So on the spectrum of Batman '89 and Adam West, he's a few clicks towards Adam West.
A few, yeah. He's kind of in the middle, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, Englehart wrote that sequel to The Laughing Fish we talked about, right?
Yes,
Atlantis.
The Fishing Lab. Yes.
All right, what happened? Because this sounds pretty good. And then
he didn't even like that one, so
Okay.
I think he just didn't have a. He was just told give Aquaman and Joker a crossover thing. It was just like a fuck if
Okay.
I know, okay, and then writes this. But
I could buy
here,
that.
yeah, here it's just like, hey, it's a
If
movie.
that's what you're told, you would
Yeah.
write Laughing Fish, though. I mean, if that's your mandate.
the fishing laugh, yeah.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
like
Fishy
here,
Laugh,
it's
yeah.
a movie version of stuff that he wrote, so I think he's gonna wanna. There's something important to this. People are gonna watch this. People who have never read his comics are gonna watch this, so it makes sense that he would put his all into this. So Batman then drops Dick back off at the circus. Again, Dick usually doesn't return there in the other versions, but here Batman specifically drops him off because he wants him to be on the lookout just in case the Joker attacks the circus again. I like this because it's, again, this is all tied in together. A lot of the other versions, it's just like Robin is just kind of just thrown in there, right? But here it's just like, oh, the story is about the origin of Robin, and through the origin of Robin, we get the origin of Batman at the same time. So this is really cool. During the circus performance, Batman sees that Silver is on a date or kind of has a male companion, and it sort of grows a little jealous of the life that he could have. So good character insight there. And that's all before a man in the audience starts laughing himself to death.
Oh, well.
And next to him is a Joker card. Silver St. Cloud is the first on the scene, and she's about to pick up the Joker card, only for Batman to arrive and stop her. He reveals that the sides of the card are razor sharp, and likely what poisoned the victim. He also kind of flirts
shit.
with Silver a bit and says, quote, "A woman with as lovely a smile doesn't need any augmentation." So
Well, he just says it out of nowhere. Like,
This
all
is
right, I
Batman's-
wasn't really thinking that, but
this is Batman's game, folks. He's just like, don't touch the card. It's poison. Also, you're kind of hot.
You're pretty.
Like it's
Pretty lady.
so. People in the audience tell Batman, "Hey, there was a balloon vendor here earlier," and Batman sees him and chases after him. And one man tries to stop this balloon vendor and ends up getting hit with red liquid in the face that makes him laugh himself to death as well. So Batman's like, "Okay, that's definitely the Joker." And Batman tracks him down and meets, quote, "the hideous face of the Joker" for the first time. And we get the first Batman-Joker fight, appropriately enough, at the circus, which makes a ton of sense if you think about it.
no, that's great. I
yeah.
think that's
He
great.
could really blend in there.
Batman and the
Yeah.
Joker have their first fight here using circus props and animals until Joker leaps into a clown car that's the size of a toy and zooms away, and Batman chases after him. Batman
That's awesome,
uses-
actually.
says
I'm
he
still
uses-
seeing no fault with the script.
No.
He uses a series of trampolines and teeter boards to race the car and lasso it just before it careens into a tunnel, but when Batman catches up to the toy car, it's empty. Joker has made his escape. And you can totally hear like Joker's laugh too, taunting him once he finds the empty car. It's great. The circus clowns say that the Joker must have gone through a trap door or something that they usually use for their performances. So anyway, Batman has failed to catch the Joker here. Gordon and O'Hara arrive again, and the investigation reveals that the dead man in the audience was the owner of a major bakery. And Gordon remarks that Joker has something against the circus. As well as bread, I guess, and that's when he turns. He finds that Batman is gone, which is classic moment.
Classic.
Joker has celiac disease.
Yes,
He is against bread.
has to go gluten free.
That's right.
He's going against Big Bread.
Batman uses the red bat phone in the Batmobile, another '60s callback, as he cruises the streets, and we meet Alfred back at home, who's said to be 55, again, youngest Alfred ever. But
all right.
It says the bat phone that Alfred uses is hidden behind false books in a Citizen Kane-like study. And Alfred
Okay.
is asked to sort of look up something that comes to Batman's mind. And Alfred sort of reads off a quote that he's heard from Juvenal about people. So let's go ahead with that.
Indeed. The people that once bestowed commands, consulships, legions, and all else now concerns itself no more, and longs eagerly for just two things: bread and circuses. Perfect.
Perfect.
Beautiful
No notes.
poetry.
So what is this quote? This quote comes from...
What is this quote?
This quote comes from Decimus Junius Juvenalis, a.k.a. Juvenal of Rome, the great satirist, who was a real-life Roman character, a real-life Roman
He
person.
wrote Back That Ass Up.
Yes.
Oh, that's juvenile.
Yes.
Never mind.
it's juvenile. But yeah,
that joke's from the '90s, kids.
So Batman is basing off the fact that bred in circuses. First there was an acrobat, now a baker, bred in circuses. So next are, earlier in the quote, consulships and legions. Something's going to happen. Those are the ones that Joker is going towards. And satire, satirist. This is probably the closest we can get to figuring out Joker's game. So this is interesting because Englehart's version in both of these treatments actually is Joker being somewhat connected to that quote and juvenile. So after the call, we get kind of an awkward beat where Alfred then hangs up and then turns and talks to a portrait of Thomas Wayne, telling him that he would be proud of his son. I'm like, I don't think we need that, but it's a nice sentiment. Again, we're reading this from the standpoint of someone, we're people who have absorbed so much Batman media over the past 30 years or so, as opposed to people in 1986 who they just know the 60s show. They might not even know exactly, if they caught the part where Adam West said that his parents were killed, they didn't catch how they were killed, what manner that was, what he had to do in order to get there, all that type of stuff. So
they gloss over it in the first episode, right?
Yeah, pretty much. It's just mentioned. Yeah.
Yeah.
Batman tells Gordon about this possible attack, but Gordon is skeptical about the clue since it seems like a leap. He's just going off of this Roman quote from Juvenal. That seems kind of weird, according to Gordon. But Batman and Gordon...
You got bread and circuses, huh?
Yeah.
That's your lead.
Yeah, pretty much. That's
All
Gordon's
right.
reaction. So Batman and Gordon appreciate each other's alliance. Batman then visits Silver St. Cloud in this steamy scene here. Silver thanks him for saving her life, and she can tell that the Batman is attracted to her, and she wants to repay him by offering dinner. And Batman's like, I work nights, unfortunately.
I'm a feminist. I'll cook you dinner.
This kind of reminded me of Chase Meridian and Batman Forever, because it kind of seems like she's kind of flirting with Batman. And she makes a comment about the Joker fight in the circus, and when she looks back, he's gone once again. Again, this Batman is all interest as of now, all business, I should say, not interest. All business right now, not interested in getting laid at the moment.
Huh.
But that'll change. Anyway, Batman goes back to Dick Grayson and tells him that he has to watch over the mayor because he thinks the mayor is going to be the Joker's new target. Dick agrees and sets up his disguise, which is being a newsboy. Yes, we're back to the original Detective Comics 38 issue where that was Dick Grayson's first disguise. I don't know how many newsboys there were in 1986, but whatever the case is,
they're probably still around to at least a smaller degree.
Maybe not the ones yelling the papers, but the ones who are throwing the newspaper into your garage, that type of stuff.
I mean, it's well before the internet, man. I mean, it probably existed a little bit.
So
they
Batman
had that guy in Batman Returns. Yeah, he was.
That's true, but that's
and stuff like that.
That's that.
Gotham
version,
is a timeless place.
Exactly.
Yeah. Stuck in a Art Deco. Yeah.
Batman gives Dick a small, sleek black box, which is basically a signal. It's almost like, think the signal watch from Jimmy Olsen to Superman. It's to alert Batman if there's any danger. Because as far as Batman's concerned, this kid is just kind of helping him by being part of the circus. He's not planning to turn this kid into a full-on crime fighter yet. Dick becomes a messenger on a bike, so I don't know why he showed up as a newsboy in one scene, but he's now a bike messenger.
He's promoted, man.
He's
got a bike now.
Newsboy to bike messenger. Anyway, unless he's meant to be like a newspaper boy on a bike. But it also says he's messaging for a bank, so I don't know. Anyway, that was something that he probably didn't think through that much.
He's a jack of all trades.
Yeah. The mayor leaves his mansion to ride across town, and Batman is following it. Englehart sort of throws in the comedic beat where the Batman accidentally scares a homeless person and has to reassure him before he can move on, which seems a little random, but it does tie into stuff later.
Okay, good.
The mayor's car gets attacked and people try to kidnap him, and that's when O'Hara shows up and starts shooting, and he actually ends up shooting down one of the people. So this is not the incompetent O'Hara from 66 show. This guy means business.
He's a badass.
Batman takes down Bruce Willis is Chief O'Hara in this. Yippee-ki-yay, motherfucker. Yeah, Begorra.
Coming to Epics, Begorra, the story of Chief O'Hara.
Batman takes down two of the others, and the final one gets taken down by Dick Grayson on a bike. He takes them down with his bike and does a wheelie and races away, according to the script.
Skids on their face.
It's kind of awesome, though, actually.
It is cool.
Yeah.
But it's a way to get Dick Grayson to prove, hey, I want to be out there and be part of the action. So this is all continuing the Robin origin story. Batman interrogates the criminals, but they claim they don't know anything about the Joker. It turns out these criminals are a separate group who are being hunted already by O'Hara, and O'Hara sort of criticizes Batman for fumbling it and gambling with the safety of the citizens and the mayor's life and that type of stuff. So Batman still stopped the kidnapping of the mayor, though. I don't know what you're complaining about, O'Hara. But O'Hara is pretty much like, I had it handled. In the meantime, that homeless man that Batman scared goes to the Salvation Army for a meal. And we meet the man in charge of the Salvation Army, in charge of feeding everyone, and he's known simply as the Colonel, who's going to be our next big character. So, anyway, the Colonel gets... for those listening, I pulled up a picture of Colonel Sanders.
Oh, man.
I was refraining. But yes.
So, the Colonel gets visited by the Joker in disguise, and the Joker kills the Colonel with Joker venom, and then, true to the original Batman #1 arc, he is a master of disguise, so he puts on makeup to look like the Colonel himself. So the Joker is now the Colonel. and trying to serve some finger-looking good chicken to the homeless people of the Salvation Army. And
was this artwork made for this exclusive hidden script?
No.
Like, how'd you find this one?
Why so tasty?
so,
I love a fried
for
chicken,
those listening in, I've pulled up a picture of Colonel Sanders, but with the Joker green hair and the red lips, holding up a Joker card with a rooster on it. It says, "Why so tasty?" So that is the Joker as the Colonel.
It's like it's saying it's chicken's fault for dying. We wouldn't eat you if you weren't so goddamn delicious.
It is very dark. This is darker than like the real Joker, I think. Why so tasty? Oh.
So
that's good, man. The most powerful card of all, the rooster.
The rooster card.
He rules the roost.
Meanwhile, Batman finds Dick Grayson and he's kind of mad about how Dick endangered himself, but he's not like Frank Miller Batman mad. He says, quote, "I ought to thrash you, but you remind me too much of me." So
thrash you.
If you were any other kid, I'd beat your ass. That's what he's saying, pretty much.
But again, this is Englehart's Batman, so he's not like, you stupid
I'd slap
kid.
your ass green. Don't you mean red? Yeah, I guess.
Batman is sort of forgiving because of the fact that he sees, an element of how he used to be in Dick Grayson. So he decides that this kid has earned his trust, and he takes him back to the Batcave, and he takes his mask off, and he reveals that he's Bruce Wayne. And Dick is somewhat overwhelmed by the fact that Bruce has trusted him with this, and overwhelmed ends up hugging him, which, sort of shows the father-son type of relationship that Englehart is setting up here. Again, this is a Robin origin movie, and I think this is one of the better versions of that, where, as opposed to the other scripts that we've gone over, where it's kind of just thrown in there because some studio exec said, like, hey, you got Robin in this? You should put Robin in this. Here is just like, okay,
some
this
guy
is one of the
from
better
Wall
versions.
Street.
Yeah.
This reminds me of
strange.
Robin's Reckoning in Batman the Animated Series.
Yep.
That scene where he, he lets him know that he's Bruce Wayne. Is that from other parts of the comics, or is this an Englehart exclusive?
There are different versions throughout history, which we covered last year in the Secret Origins of Robin thing. But
my memory's going like Andrew's.
But there's
you remember
variations
every single line we ever said in these podcasts, man. What's up?
Some versions Dick meets Batman first. Other versions he meets Bruce first. Some versions Batman unmasks. Other versions Bruce just takes him into the Batcave and says, "I'm Batman." Like we've seen so many different takes on this, but I don't think this is an Englehart exclusive necessarily. If it's him for the first time, then this is Englehart paving new ground that other comics later did.
Takes him to the Batcave, and then cut to the lights being turned off, then cut to them smoking a cigarette together.
And there we go. There go the listeners.
It just got dark, yeah. So Bruce, Dick, and Alfred all try to figure out what Joker's game plan is, but they get stumped. And Batman, is like, you know what, I'll take you back to the circus. But Dick says, you know what, the tragedy of my parents' death, it's too great over there at the circus. He thinks about them too much, and he doesn't want to stay there anymore. And Batman, for the first time in 7 years, allows there to be a guest in Wayne Manor.
Damn.
So
it's like, it's a little boy.
But I like this because, again...
No, it's good. It is good. It's good.
It's a Batman who clearly isn't letting people in, as we're seeing with Silver, but the arc is about how much he lets them in and how limited he is in that. So, like, yes, he'll let this kid into his life, but because of the fact it ties into being Batman, as opposed to with Silver, he's keeping her at arm's length. So that's kind of what he's going with in this, I think. Batman then broods in a chair as sad Batman in front of his father's portrait, believing that he's being overmatched by the Joker. But then he sits up and he sort of pep talks himself. I don't think this would play well on screen, but I get what he's going for here, where he's just like, this won't do me any good. I'm no use to anyone if I lose my objectivity. That way just leads to madness. Again, we're probably not going to have that dialogue on film if this ever progressed further. But again, Englehart is a comic book writer. So he's kind of used to characters sort of monologuing to themselves in a way. But on screen, it doesn't really do that.
I appreciate that, though. You want to know what's going on in their head, and I wouldn't be against that in a live-action Batman film with internal monologue being the narration.
With an internal
internal. Make it internal, maybe, and it looks like we're kind of getting that in Matt Reeves's, but we'll see.
Maybe, yeah, but this seems like he's literally talking to himself out loud in the treatment. So I'm like, I don't see Michael Keaton doing that.
It's so easily changed to inner monologue, though.
Yeah,
that would be an easy fix.
Next is what's called a Joker rally that Englehart cites is like a Nazi rally. In the basement of the Mission.
This is great, actually.
He's in front of 25 homeless people, and he's making a speech that his message is, quote, madness and anarchy, and the mood grows more and more frenzied, more and more, I shit you not, he puts this word in there, Hitlerian.
Okay, yeah.
For those who are watching it on the video, or for those who aren't able to hear what's on the video, I have concept art pulled up from the Tim Burton Julie Hickson treatment, where Joker was trying to run for mayor. Which is kind of foreshadowing of Batman Returns in a way. But similar idea of Joker trying to get a whole bunch of people on his side, which I don't think we would get to see until kind of the Joaquin Phoenix Joker movie in terms of the live action stuff. So
he just says a lot of things that make a lot of sense.
When Wolfie was on the podcast, he was pretty much indoctrinated into the Heath Ledger Joker, if you remember the Dark Knight deep dive.
Yes, that is true.
He was like, should I be worried about this?
I've heard a lot of people say that they think Magneto is right, and I'm like, he's kind of a fucking Nazi in a sense, even though he was persecuted by the Nazis. Like, maybe rethink your position on Magneto is all I'm saying.
It's like the abused becomes the abuser, that type of thing. Yeah.
Which makes perfect sense in the comics, but you agreeing with him is another thing.
I feel like this is one of the first times I've heard of an early Joker inciting people or kind of pushing them into chaos. I feel like with that being very much like Ledger's Joker, because I mean the other Jokers are just kind of like out for themselves and
true,
a little bit more sadistic. This one, it's like it's hard to imagine the Joker rallying normal people.
Yeah, that's true. Bruce meets Silver, who invites him to lunch, and the two seem to hit it off. It looks like there's a bit of foreshadowing of Batman Forever, as Silver seems interested in both Bruce and Batman. And come to think of it, we've also got the origin of Robin against with him trying to avenge his parents against the Rogues Gallery villains. So this is basically there's more in common with Batman Forever, honestly, here than in the '89 movie.
Did
in my
Batman
opinion.
Forever rip off the Batman script from 1986?
Maybe that should have been we need to redo this title. Zach, throw out the thumbnail. Redoing this. All right, next scene is back at Wayne Manor. Dick Grayson he goes to find Alfred looking over a scrapbook of Bruce's past in this room where Bruce sort of trained himself. And this is very interesting. There are newspaper articles about Bruce winning science fairs and wrestling contests, writing prize-winning essays, and becoming an Eagle Scout, even. Which, at first glance, people are just like, Eagle Scout? Superman's the Boy Scout. But if you think about it, Eagle Scouts... And speaking as one myself, like you learn a lot of different skills in terms of survival.
Dude, that would make total sense.
It makes total sense, yeah.
People saying Superman's a Boy Scout. People just say that he's not really a Boy Scout, though. Superman, well, maybe he was in some runs, but it's more of like an stereotypical attitude when they talk about Boy Scout,
exactly. They're not talking about like what you actually do in the Scouts.
Yeah,
it does. It reminds me of that Justice League moment in the animated series where I think Flash is like, "You're really not a Boy Scout, are you?" And Superman's like, Never made it. Never even got my first merit badge.
yeah. Like
I love that.
It's more of a metaphor kind of thing, but it actually does make more sense that Bruce is a Eagle Scout with all the like orienteering survival kind of shit.
Yeah, he would know about, like, you're stuck in the middle of nowhere. What do you do? Like, he would be the one obsessed with finding that type of stuff out. First aid, of course that's going to be handy.
Yeah, that's totally in character.
Eventually, the scrapbook goes blank because 7 years ago, he quote unquote decided to go underground and start preparing. So this leads to an interesting point that might not be super clear from what I just pointed out, but Englehart is not actually a fan of the idea of Bruce Wayne traveling around the world to get training. He expressed this before in the Word Balloon podcast, that his issue with Batman Begins was just he felt it was weird for Bruce to travel to Tibet because he felt like that was a Doctor Strange thing. Because he wrote for Doctor Strange, too. He never really associated Bruce traveling around the world. And I know the people listening now are just like, well, that's fucking weird because that's part of the origin. I'm like, well, not during this time.
Yeah, I could see that, yeah.
During this time, the most you got out of the origin was him getting training when he was the prototype Robin to Detective Harvey Harris in the Silver Age issue, where Bruce was the first Robin. It was really the 1989 comics, which is well after this, that show, like, hey, here's Bruce going to get training from Ducard in France. Brought to you, of course, by Sam Hamm, funny enough. So that kind of, in a roundabout way, Englehart is not agreeing with the guy who would eventually take over and do the actual script for this movie.
I understand where Englehart's coming from, but I like him traveling to train because if you have the money and you really want to learn from the source, it's just, I think that's just what you do. If he had the chance to, I'm sure there's a lot of great people in Gotham that teach Shaolin Kung Fu, but if it's a choice between that and going to actual Shaolin Temple in China, he's gonna fucking go to China. Yeah, that's just how I look at it.
This version makes it sound like he just went downstairs and started building the Batcave, and that's it. He just took that chisel and started making everything. He didn't train.
It's like day 3. I kind of made some headway into the cave, Alfred.
Made one step.
In the meantime,
shuffling is hard as hell.
Bruce is still with Silver and seems to be into her, and he ends up slipping up at this point, commenting on how Silver has a beautiful smile, which he realizes he said as Batman. So even though that was kind of a weird moment earlier, it does tie into the plot here, because it's the first clue to Silver that there's more to Bruce than what he seems.
And it's kind of like the mistletoe quote in
Batman Returns. Exactly, yeah. Then 3 street bums show up to mug them, and Bruce decides that he wants to fight back. But he has to comply since the guy has Silver hostage. So when Bruce hands over his money and they let Silver go, Bruce still goes after them, and as a result, he gets stabbed in the forearm by one of the guys. So he gets wounded in this, and Silver uses her scarf to tend to his wound, and this gives her even more of a clue that something's up with Bruce because he seems like very angry at criminals and seems like he wants to fight them and stuff.
He just doesn't like bums. He's a classist.
It's like, I am a billionaire. Why do you think I'm angry?
I'm going to space soon as well.
So the same muggers then meet with the Joker. Turns out they were working for him. And he rewards them for their work with drugs. He gives them a speed and opium concoction. However, he finds out that the knife wielder who wounded Bruce Wayne did not succeed in killing him. And he's basically like, well, if you can't hit a proper jugular, I'll make my trade elsewhere. And so he injects him with Joker venom instead of the drugs and kills him. Which is pretty fucking twisted.
Yeah.
In the Batcave, Batman's getting stitched up by Alfred, and Bruce is pissed because he feels like he could have done better, but he was held back because he wasn't in the suit. Englehart says, quote, it's a new dilemma for him keeping a secret identity from someone he likes. And Bruce is worried that his feelings for Silver will hurt his efficiency. And that's when Dick arrives saying, that's why you need my help. And Dick is arriving in the Robin outfit. So for those looking on the video, this is Joe Quinones' design for Marlon Wayans as Robin in the Batman 89 comic coming up, where he has a hood and a yellow mask covering his nose and mouth, which is very relevant to the past couple years. But this is the Robin outfit in the Englehart treatment is, of course, the traditional one. Says that he keeps the red vest as a memorial for his parents, but adds the green and yellow to keep him from being recognized, which I really like, because I feel like if it's literally the same outfit, then it's just like, well, that's the same outfit that the Graysons wore before they were killed,
true.
leaving
I didn't think about that.
Yeah, leaving an orphan kid who's about the same age as Robin. I wonder who's Robin. Like, it's I like that it's just the vest, and it's kind of ironic that it's the first one, because it seems like he did it the best out of all these, Englehart.
All these emotional beats in the script so far, I know I've said it before, but it's just, this is all lining up really well.
Yeah. Dick also wants to take on the name Robin. There's no explanation provided for this, though. Not yet.
Okay. He didn't get that far. He'll figure
Englehart
it out.
didn't get that. Englehart himself won't have it in the treatments, but we'll get it, of course, in other variations. Like these days, it's kind of difficult to do a Robin origin without having... to read a Robin origin without somebody having their version on where the name Robin comes from.
A robin flew into the window and said, I shall
Shall
become a robin.
Just smack into the glass.
Yes. So Bruce doesn't like this, and he says, you're only supposed to be an operative, but Robin refuses this, obviously. So it's Batman and Robin now. Meanwhile, in Gotham Garden, the Federal Secretary of Housing and Urban Development is giving a speech to Gotham, only for Joker to fly a plane over and drop a bunch of TV sets that crush people to death.
Damn. TV sets? All right.
So the Secretary of Housing and Urban Development gets his head smashed in by a TV set that falls on him, and Batman hears about this in the Batcave with Robin. And Batman connects that to that juvenile quote saying that, it was legions, consulships, and commands. And he's like, wait, the secretary would be consulships. So who was killed among the legions? And they go out for the first time as Batman and Robin in costume, and they go to the Salvation Army because they believe the person being connected to the legions is the Colonel. Now, they don't know.
Vile fiend.
Foul fiend?
Foul fiend.
The Joker... is in disguise as the Colonel, and of course claims he doesn't know anything about this Joker fellow. And Batman.
What's this Colonel supposed to look like? He's not the fucking KFC Colonel, right?
They don't. He does not specify. So
okay.
If you say Colonel these days, though, you can't help, especially a Colonel who's feeding people. You can't help but make an association there.
That's true. Yeah.
So Batman and this is a moment that feels a little 1966-ish. Batman and Robin offer to make a donation to the Colonel, to the Salvation Army, because they know what it's like to have lost, security these days. So I'm like, that feels a little, like, I get it. It probably wouldn't play the same way, but I feel like that's an Adam West and Burt Ward beat there.
Yeah.
Batman and Robin are in the Batmobile when they get attacked by 4 cars from the Joker. And what follows is, quote, an exciting car chase and demolition derby that takes place in the narrow Gotham streets. This is Englehart writing basically a Batmobile chase. The Batmobile winds up at the circus where Batman and Robin have to fight everyone off. And this becomes Robin's public debut, which feels appropriate because it's at his circus. During the fight, a thug hits Batman with a balancing pole on his wounded arm, and Batman winces. And Silver St. Cloud, because of the fact that's her circus, is in the audience, and she sees it and notices that Batman's wounded in the same place that Bruce Wayne was.
She must be really close. She's sitting really close to see all that. She's got her little binoculars out.
She's fucking Sherlock Holmes. So Batman and Robin figure out that the Colonel was the Joker in disguise all along. That he was the last victim. And so the next victim will fall under the clue of quote-unquote commands. Robin suspects that this time the target will be the mayor, and the Joker clearly thinks that he is, quote, that he is Juvenalis, with his fixation on the helpless and his bombastic hatred of everything else. So we've got some interesting psychological insight into this version of the Joker, who sort of fancies himself along the same philosophies as this satirist from the Roman Empire. Not quite a take that I usually think of with the Joker, but this is Englehart's take on it, and I think it's interesting.
That's cool.
Silver St. Cloud goes to Wayne Manor and brings up her suspicions that Bruce Wayne is Batman. Bruce tries to deny it and brings up that if he were in Batman's place, crime-fighting life would outweigh everything else. And she seems hurt by this, but says, well, if I were to ever meet him in person again, I'd assure him that I could have been trusted. And then she leaves. So this is Bruce clearly making the decision not to let Silver in. Kind of what I was saying, where I think Englehart is saying that Bruce's arc is to finally let someone in his life, but it's within limitation. it's within the limits of how much it relates to being Batman. If it doesn't, and if it does not help his war on crime, then he has to cut himself off, even if it breaks his own heart. The Joker recruits begin to slip into, quote, speedy trances and start moving into one direction towards the mayor's mansion. The police try to stop them, but nothing helps. And then Batman arrives and, I guess, quote unquote, dominates them through sheer force of will. Force of will would be the Batmobile. He just runs all of them over. He's Ben Affleck in this version.
The end.
Sheer force
mow
of
him
will.
down.
So
Let God sort him out.
I guess he just fights a whole bunch of people who are under Joker's thrall. O'Hara now seems grateful for Batman because he probably saves his life at this point. So that completes O'Hara's arc, and Batman hears from Robin that this has all been a distraction, and Robin has been investigating the real thing that Batman suspected, which is that Joker is using that as a distraction so that he can do a heist at the Gotham Art Museum. So yes, we do have Joker at the Art Museum in this version. Slightly foreshadowing of 89. However, he's not destroying paintings and dancing around to Prince music in this version. He's planning to steal them, and he's bagged, quote, the entire series of Toulouse-Lautrec's painting of the clown Cha Yu Kao, which I'm showing here in the video version. It's a real painting. So Englehart's not making shit up. He's got a real Roman satirist, and he's got a real painting that Joker is stealing that is of a clown. So this all kind of makes sense. He figures that this is the only painting or the only crime really worthy enough for, someone of his sentiment. So Batman and Robin come down to stop him, and Joker runs away and goes to a construction site, which leads to the final fight on this abandoned construction site, which is similar to the finale of the Sign of the Joker towards the end of Strange Apparitions. Robin is said to, quote, get a few good licks in since Joker killed his parents, but most of the fight is between Batman and Joker on the girders in the rain, like in the comic. At one point, Batman is left hanging on like one of the girders as Joker is stomping on his fingers, kind of like in the 89 film. But Batman then does the move where he swings his legs up and he kicks Joker off on the other side. As Joker falls, he tries to grab Batman's cape while cutting at Batman with a knife, but all he ends up doing is cutting off the cape, and he ends up falling. And it says that he lands into, quote, an open sewer connection below to be swept underground in a rain-fed torrent. So he falls into water. We're not sure whether he's dead or not, as opposed to the 89 movie where it's very obvious that he's dead. Yeah, pretty dead. Batman and Robin aren't sure if Joker's dead here, and as they talk, Batman sees among the crowd Silver St. Cloud, who clearly recognizes that it's Bruce, and he says nothing to her, and he makes his decision. He goes to Robin and says, you and me against all the world of crime, and they take off in the Batmobile together. This is not the end, though, because in the nearby alley, they have been watched. It is the Catwoman.
Oh, quote, spooky Catwoman.
Spooky Catwoman, quote, stroking her beautiful chin. I've never described chins as beautiful, but okay. Her beautiful chin with a calculating gleam in her beautiful eyes in preparation for the sequel. Quick cut to the credits. So, that is treatment number 1, and it is Englehart's first crack at it. What do you guys think? Starting with Zach.
It's pretty good. Yeah. Didn't have enough Joker for me. Need more Joker, but overall, it is a pretty good, I guess just a pretty good way for him to take all of these different ideas and put them together and have them be cohesive. And if we're not going to get a Batman origin movie for the first one, it is probably better that at least it's a Robin origin movie, so we're focusing on his relationship with a crime-fighting partner, another hero, instead of it being like a Joker origin movie. As much as I love 89, I mean, it is essentially like the Joker's rise to power. Yeah, I thought it was pretty cool.
Andrew?
It's really great, but I think that the ending, I could see why I could see producers maybe changing that part of it, because him choosing to be with a boy over a girl, a grown woman his age, maybe I would keep it all the same, except maybe I know it's more dramatic for him to just choose one over the other, but the age difference also, I don't know, something a little off for me about it, but I liked pretty much 99.9% of it.
Yeah.
Other than that, I thought it's real, like when Robin says I'll fight, and and all that, and just everything. Yeah, everything lined up really well, and it was really thought out very well.
Yeah. I do think this is not necessarily a great blueprint for the first big cinematic Batman movie, but it is a better blueprint for kind of a Batman and Robin movie, for Robin origin and how that's portrayed. Because that's really the main backbone of this. The Batman versus Joker stuff is just, it's not nearly as good as what we've ended up seeing, but that's kind of because this version, it's kind of like what the Marvel movies do, where it's just like the villain's not really important. What's important is the arc for the hero in that. And it's a different approach than what we ended up getting in all the different versions of, the Joker, Batman versus Joker movies. But it is, I'd say it's pretty solid, but I think he does an even better job in the second treatment. And we're going to go into that after the break. Hey, this is Ben from Superhero Stuff You Should Know, and I have an important announcement for you guys. At the end of every single episode of Superhero Stuff You Should Know, you might hear us shout out to our fans, one of whom is Matt Herring, who was one of the original Superhouse fans. He's always given us his support, and now it's time that we support him. We've just recently found out that Matt has been diagnosed with stage 4 colon cancer. And as a cancer survivor myself, I know personally that there's a lot of emotional and financial strain that comes into that. His wife, Kelly, has set up a GoFundMe account at gofundme.com/f/Matthew-kicks-cancer039s-butt. And hopefully you can help reduce the financial strain to that, as well as some of the emotional strain that comes with that. Again, that's gofundme.com/f/Matthew-kicks-cancer039s-butt.
Matt Herring was the first, I guess you could say, true Superhouse fan. We were Superhouse at that time. The first fan of this podcast and what we do here, and has always supported us, talked about us, and he's from a town close to where I'm from, and so we share that as well, and just a huge superhero fan, and nerd like the rest of us, and now he's going through that. And if you could donate just at least any amount of money to that link that Ben just said, that would be truly appreciated. Just hang in there, Matt. You'll beat this thing soon.
Hi, I'm Ray, and this is my friend Alex.
Hi.
And we do a show called No More Whoppers.
Some call it corn, we call it therapy.
We're adults with the virility of men.
Want to hear us read snack food copy and talk about Japanese chips? Too bad!
Join us every month or so on the Greenlit Podcast Network.
Lord have mercy, y'all. Do you like hounds? Do you enjoy pooches? Do you find yourself enjoying time spent with that of canines? Talking about dogs, y'all.
As you might have heard, Superhero Stuff You Should Know has now teamed up with Barkbox. For every month, you get a box for your special canine.
Pooches.
Or hounds.
That's right. One free extra month if you go to barkbox.com/superherostuffpod.
Follow the link and you'll get a free extra month valued at $35 and valid for all multi-length plans.
So get the Barkbox for your hound, for your pooch, for your canine.
Your doggo will thank you.
Where's the chicken? I know you did it. You've been poisoning the chicken throughout the city.
Land sakes alive! Looky here, folks. We got ourselves a celebrity. Why, Batman, I'm so happy you came to patronize this Kentucky Fried Chicken.
Patronize is right. I'm here to fuck you up.
Batman, I don't know if this is the Joker in disguise. I think he's the real Colonel.
I tell you what, I'm the real Colonel Sanders. And I'll tell you something else, too. We're open on Sundays, unlike some folks.
You see that, Robin? He sounds exactly like him.
I don't know. It sounds like just Joker with a southern accent.
It's the exact same. And his face, too. Everything about him. That stupid fucking face.
Well, you don't have to be so cruel about it. The only jokester around here is you. I'm Colonel Sanders. I thought you came in here for some of my famous Kentucky Fried Chicken.
Batman, let's just get some chicken and go. I don't want to... He could be innocent.
Robin, my detective skills are honed to the finest degree possible. Now I'm going to yank on his chin beard to show you just how stupid his face is.
Ow, mercy me, that's a strong grip. Why are you yanking on my chin here, boy?
Batman, I think that's his real beard.
You're wrong, it's definitely the Joker. Now if I just squeeze his cheeks, see this fucking stupid grin he's got? It's look, this is him, look at it.
My goodness, would you let go of my face?
Batman, let go of his face.
This is definitely becoming a misdemeanor, a crime of some sort.
Robin, he's using the Joker's diversionary tactics to get me to not fuck him up.
Batman, if you do this, we could get arrested.
They never catch me.
I guess you're right.
I'm still fucking this guy up. Wham!
Ooh,
Boom!
Lordy me!
Batman, no!
Snap!
Philly wigs!
Crackle!
Goodness!
Pop!
Ow! Gasp! Can it be? Do this old Uncle Joker's eyes deceive him? Is that you, old pointy ears?
Wait a second.
See, that's the Joker.
Yes, and it appears that my dear Dark Knight has laid his strong, leather-clad hands on some fragile old man instead of his perfect little clown boy of crime.
Holy mistaken identity, Batman.
I guess you were right, Robin. This chicken guy's just a chicken guy.
Lorks of mercy. You boys are never coming into my chicken establishment again.
No!
Robin, I know you love this place, but I fucked up. I'm sorry. Smoke bomb. Let's get out of here, Robin.
Oh, great. So you left me with Joker.
It's okay, Boy Wonder. We're going to enjoy some KFC popcorn chicken.
You guys got those burnt board dicks.
And we're back, and we're going to cover the second treatment by Steve Englehart, written just a couple months later for the Batman '89 movie, and it's a little different from what we had before, and in my opinion, better than the first one. So let's go into it. It is dated May 22nd, 1986, and we start this time with the death of Thomas and Martha Wayne. Now, again, we might be groaning about that, but 1986, we have not seen that in live-action film yet.
So quit your belly aching.
It's pretty much required for this specific film. You kind of need it for that, because the only other adaptation at this point was the Galactic Guardians, the Superpowers team, with Adam West. At that
And
point,
no one saw that even when it aired.
Or the audio adaptation for the Untold Legend of the Batman in like 1982 or something. Like those are the main ones. Actually, no, that was later. Anyway, just the secret, the Galactic Guardians was the main thing. But anyway, the death of Thomas and Martha Wayne happens in 1974 in this version. Bruce is 12 years old at the time. We then go to the funeral, and this is where Alfred and Bruce meet, quote, Chief Inspector Gordon at 50 years old. Now, I believe history is being made here because I think this is the first instance where Gordon is around when the Waynes are killed and talks to Bruce after the murders. This is shown in the Sam Hamm script. It was even shot as a photo for Batman '89 with the officer comforting the young Bruce Wayne. However, it did not make it into the final film. Pat Hingle even knew about it. Yeah, Pat Hingle, the actor who played Gordon, even knew about this and talks about that in the featurette, but it didn't make it into that. We didn't really get to see it in live action until Batman Begins. And then in Gotham, where in the Gotham pilot, Gordon literally shows up at the funeral. So I'm sure Englehart saw that and they're like, they took that from my treatment. I'm sure that they didn't even read the treatment because this thing is barely available. But still, it's something that I think just makes sense, and it seems like it comes from here. So
Nice.
Credit to Englehart. Gordon brings up that he hates street crime of any kind and that he vows to help find the man who did this, which again
Jaywalking.
ends up I hate it.
Spitting out gum.
So
Littering.
this is kind of like the Gotham pilot, where Gordon vowed to help try to find the man who killed Bruce's parents. So this is interesting. Bruce goes and he makes the same vow to wage war on all criminals again. But we don't flash forward yet. We go into Steve Englehart's version of the training.
Okay.
So this evokes kind of the Tom Mankiewicz script, which also covered Bruce's training, and also somewhat had it set in Gotham. Because again, during this time, they didn't think to have him travel around the world.
Real quick, this is Englehart's second pass.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, got it.
So we cut to Bruce sitting on a quote-unquote 1974 state-of-the-art exercise machine in a newly built gym.
It's called a Nordic track.
At this point, he's not only set up a new gym, but he's also set up a chemistry lab and is reading more and more books. And Alfred is
reading
worried.
Popular Mechanics magazine.
Alfred is worried about how withdrawn Bruce has become, and Bruce snaps at him at this point. Says, quote, "How dare you talk to me like that? You may be the executor of this estate, but it's still my estate, and you're still a servant." Which kind of makes Bruce unlikable, except Bruce keeps pushing himself to the point where he starts breaking down and crying and apologizes to Alfred immediately. So it's deliberate at this point.
Yeah, that's cool. I like that.
He apologizes to Alfred because he feels like he has to fight crime for his mom and dad and for all the other kids out there who are victims of this type of crime. And there's an interesting bit of dialogue here where he says, quote, "I don't want to go crazy. I want to be the best, and you can't be the best if you're crazy."
Okay.
This is interesting because to me it feeds into Grant Morrison's theory that Batman is not actually crazy, is not actually as mentally ill as the people he faces, which a lot of people say. He becomes Batman, according to Morrison, as a way to avoid being crazy, as his main coping mechanism, and it seems that Englehart agrees with that based off of what's implied in this treatment. So
okay.
I really like that. I really like that idea of, it makes it more relatable as Batman being a sign of how he tries to cope in the healthiest way possible and tries to turn it into something positive. Now, again, we factor in the fact that Frank Miller's Batman is still beating the shit out of people, but you have to look at it from a broader scope than just the one or two instances at this time where he's being really super brutal.
I mean, Englehart writing this, Frank Miller's stuff is just coming out, right?
Yeah, exactly, that too.
Hasn't had enough time to really absorb it, probably, as a writer.
Yeah, and Englehart himself is just a proponent for a different type of Batman, a much more healthier Batman mentally on that. So it all makes sense. Alfred agrees to help him and help train him, saying that he'll awaken Bruce at 6 a.m. and work up a quote-unquote sensible athletic routine. Bruce asks, could we start at 5? So that's cool. We then cut to meet Professor Kane, Kane. Wonder who that's named after. Kane is teaching the art of picking up 10-plus broads. No, he's teaching fingerprinting technique. Reference to our Bob Kane episode, everybody. He's teaching fingerprinting techniques, and we meet a now 15-year-old Bruce Wayne who is auditing the course, a college course at 15.
Kane with fingerprinting techniques. I got it.
Yes. He is auditing this class under the fake name of Brian Winger. And something new to add to the training timeline, I guess, that episode we did where I broke down all of the stuff, though I might also incorporate that into its own little video essay for those who are interested. But Professor Kane...
just might happen.
Yeah, it just might. Professor Kane asks this young kid in his class, quote, "Do your parents know where you are?" Poor Bruce. But Bruce says, "Oh, yes, sir, they know."
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. So he's fulfilling his promise, the vow that he made. Cut to 4 years later, and a 19-year-old Bruce is grappling around the Wayne Manor chimney, which is also similar to a scene in Tom Mankiewicz's script. I'm kind of wondering if Englehart actually just cribs it from this, because this seems oddly specific of a beat, where he's literally climbing the chimney of Wayne Manor, and then it somewhat collapses and he falls. Alfred thinks, he's done for the day, but Bruce then goes back and climbs using only finger and toe holds without a rope, just like the Dark Knight Rises. Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Just to show that determination.
If it was just the one, I would have given it to him. But with all those factors, it does seem very like they pulled from it.
Yeah. The without the rope thing is an Englehart addition. I think Mankiewicz just ended it with the beat of the the collapse of the chimney, but Englehart sort of adds this thing just to be like, okay, this is not a joke. This is what he would really do, which I think is
right.
I approve of that. Flash forward to a 23-year-old Bruce Wayne who returns to Professor Kane's classroom only to find out that Professor Kane is dead and he has been murdered. Now, this is interesting. What we're going to see is... what we're about to see is something rare, where it's the evolution of Bruce as a detective, which we don't really get that much. Like, a lot of times when you see the training, it's usually Bruce training with martial arts.
Yeah.
Other ways of combat, escape type stuff, you rarely sort of see his training as a detective, or it's just shown in sort of a short montage thing in the comics. But Englehart actually dramatizes something, and it's the death of this professor. The detective of the local police wants to know who he is, and Bruce says, I'm a former student, and I'm studying the death of my teacher. Funny enough, I had a similar concept in my Gotham spec, which you can check out at benoitwriter.com/Gotham-vampire. Just a little plug there. But anyway, yes. Perfect. But back to this scene. Bruce examines the gun used to shoot Professor Kane to death and notices that the fingerprints on the gun are from the right hand. And the cops are like, well, yeah. But Bruce says the killer was left-handed. Now, how does he know that? He brings up the fingerprints are all smudged equally and artificially, meaning that they are all at the wrong angle for anyone holding a gun. Nobody holding a gun would be able to put all 5 digits around the gun in that particular way while firing it. So he figures it out that it's the only person there who's left-handed, who is a female student who, this is dark, was seduced by Professor Kane and got her pregnant and abandoned her.
Shit.
Few clicks away from Adam West now.
I thought it would have been funnier if he'd been like, it was Professor Kane, and then Professor Kane sits up and he's like, you passed the final test, Bruce. I like mine better. This other was too dark.
Yeah, that one went dark real quick, huh?
I guess this is Englehart's way of saying, yeah, this character is named after Bob Kane, and you abandoned this girl just like you abandoned Bill Finger. So,
is it still the cold open? Has it even gotten to like the title Batman
we haven't
yet?
gotten to the title yet. We're almost there.
God.
We're almost there, Zach.
He has to figure out how to be a detective before the credits
We're
can
watching
even
his
come up.
entire lifetime here. His entire journey. All right.
Next scene, he gets up, the alarm. He gets up from bed, does his routine in the bathroom, goes to get breakfast. But yeah.
Does his routine.
So the murderer, basically brings up the fact that she feels justified because of the fact that it was her revenge due to how horribly he treated her, and Bruce is not sympathetic towards her and says, quote, murder is never justified. And the killer says, have you no heart? And Bruce responds, not when it interferes with my mind. So this sort of sets up Bruce's arc with the whole Silver St. Cloud stuff where he's going to fall in love. But here he has no time for love. He has no accounting for compassion right now. The compassion to either be a father figure for a kid or be in love with somebody, any of that type of stuff. So I think what he's doing here is interesting. It feels a little long for a cold open. I agree with Zach on that. But for a scene in terms of Batman's training, I actually kind of really like it because it seems unique. Comac wants to know Bruce's name, but Bruce never gives it. But we kind of get, here's the evolution of the world's greatest detective type stuff. So I really like that. Bruce is in Wayne Manor and monologues to himself that he can't see himself become a police consultant or a PI. He must have a disguise. And then a bat flies in through the window. We're staying true, 100% true to the Bill Finger origin here. And it says, quote, we follow in slow motion the creature's flight around the room. Then we return to Bruce's face as everything we've seen thus far clicks into place for him. One intense look of realization, and then, as the bat's black shadow falls across his face, we dissolve to the title, The Batman. There we
fucking
get the title.
happy, Zach?
Yes, I am. You know what? I wish that little scene there was the whole opening, and then you got to Batman. Now, I don't need the parent's death. I don't need him training. We just have him sitting in that room. And he's like, I need something. I gotta have a disguise. And then he says the whole, criminals are a superstitious and cowardly lot thing.
Yeah.
And then the bat flies in and just, that would have been a perfect opening for a Batman movie.
So Bruce is now the Batman. So we see Bruce don the Batsuit, and here Englehart actually goes into detail of how he sees the Batsuit, and it's actually different from the what Marshall Rogers and Terry Austin did. So he says, quote, tight gray cloth sliding over thickly muscled legs, high black gleaming boots pulling into place, finned gloves, the golden belt, the black cylinders in the belt compartments, the sweeping cape, the blank white eyes, the pointed ears, until finally, as the credits end, the Batman rises into view on a rooftop before the full moon. So it's looking like he wants to go black and gray on this. And the whole credit sequence is over him suiting up.
That's very much like Schumacher.
Yeah. There's just no I'll get drive-through line. It's literally just him.
No butt shot pulling up their leather bat pants.
Oh, man.
Yeah. It says that at this point he's 25 years old, which is around the age he is at the very beginning of Batman Year One, which doesn't come out until a year after this, but that's interesting. We cut to sometime later as we meet 4 hoods, 2 of whom are named Fender and Smack, and they're robbing an armored truck. Fender and Smack try to get away only for Batman to stand in front of their headlights. He uses his gadgets to take out their tires and forcing them to crash, and then we get sort of a chase with Batman terrorizing them. Quote, "The Batman is evoked in all this by the menacing, encompassing shadows." So probably something similar to what we got in the the docks scene in Batman Begins. However, not like Batman Begins, we kind of get... This beat, I think, is a little dumb. So Batman turns to one of the thugs, who's still conscious, and says, "Carry your buddy." And Batman and this guy literally walk into the police headquarters carrying the bodies to drop them off to GCPD and drop his body onto the counter. I'm like, I don't know about that. Just have Gordon show up. So anyway, Commissioner Gordon arrives, and Batman uses intimidating tactics to make the criminals confess to what they were doing. And pretty much the main objective of this is to set up that Gordon and Batman are working together. And here's Batman now and him crime fighting. Bruce arrives back home to Alfred, and Alfred is like, "You shouldn't have stepped in front of the truck." And Bruce is like, "Yeah, but it was fun." Again, this is a more somewhat mentally healthy Batman in a way. I mean, that's kind of a Daredevil type thing, but you probably wouldn't hear Miller say it was fun unless he's talking about beating the shit out of somebody. It would probably be like, "It was a tactical decision, Alfred. You wouldn't understand," or something like that. Here he's just like, "Yeah, but I might as well have fun doing it," which is interesting because you don't really associate Batman thinking that his stuff is that fun. But that just highlights...
justice is a burden.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Except when he's driving around that Batmobile. He's having a good time.
Yes. Bruce says to, wake me up at 2 because I have some social thing to do at 4. So the social thing the next day turns out to be a charity wine tasting at the house of a man named Daniel Rossmore. And here is where Bruce meets Silver St. Cloud. There's more of a description here. Englehart describes her as, quote, "a classic beauty with chiseled cheekbones and a lively intelligence." They get along, and Silver invites Bruce to the charity circus since she still runs the Gotham Garden here in this treatment. Meanwhile, the owner of the house, Daniel Rossmore, crashes the conversation because of the fact that he wants to know if Bruce is still friends with Gordon because he got a very curious note from somebody who seems to have taken down a clown theme. So let's hear this note.
I gotta read this fucking number.
Leave $10,067.73 in your jacuzzi anytime today before Johnny Carson, or your world will go crazy. Signed, the Joker. P.S. What the hell? $10,167.73.
So no one has heard of the Joker at this point.
Diabolical.
They've just gotten this letter that at first wants a certain amount, but then Joker just ups it $100 at the very end. Bruce is like, this must be a prank, but deep down inside, he's worried. So just in case, he sneaks into Rossmore's house during the party to find the jacuzzi room just to see, like, okay, if he wants to meet here, how could Joker show up? And so he goes, right, sort of looking around the jacuzzi, and he ends up running right into the Joker. It says, quote, "His face is chalk white, his hair garish green, his stretched lips red as new blood. He wears a bizarre purple suit and he radiates lunatic energy. Joker," this is creepy as fuck, "Joker has been hiding inside this guy's house the entire time. Just chilling out.
Under the bed.
He's under the bed since leaving the note. This is kind of true to the original Batman *1, because Joker would do this type of shit where he's just like, I'm going to kill this guy at midnight. And it turns out he already poisoned him, and he's just waiting in the closet the whole time. So
it's gonna Joker get bored in there.
Joker thinks Bruce is a spy for Rossmore and shoots Bruce Wayne. So this is something that we ended up getting in '89, where Joker shot Bruce in Vicky's apartment. Obviously, Bruce survives. In this version, he fakes getting hit, and a voiceover says, quote, "I knew he was going to shoot. And I started to throw myself aside just soon enough to avoid the bullet." He even has a hole in his jacket, which shows just how narrowly he avoided death right there. Joker then goes to the party and uses his lapel flower to spray green into Rossmore's face, and he laughs himself to death because he did not pay up that money. The Batman arrives and gets into his first fight with Joker. So it's now here at the wine tasting as opposed to the circus. I did like it at the circus, though.
Yeah.
Joker escapes since the crowd grows more panicked and knock over the poles holding up the tent of the party. So Batman wants to find Joker, and then we get the familiar scene where he goes to a goon for information. Other people try to attack him. Batman attacks back and ends up disappearing. Same beats here. Bruce then goes to his date with Silver at the circus, at the Gotham Garden. And that's where we find that it turns out that Silver has received a Joker note demanding money. So Joker's kind of doing the extortion racket that Boss Zuko does in the traditional Robin origin, where he's extorting all these people. Traditionally, Zuko is the one to extort Haley's circus, and that's what leads to the death of the Graysons when they refuse to pay up. Here, it's Silver getting it. So, Joker wants $21,361.49.
Okay.
Better make sure you have that 49 cents in there. Like this.
Yeah.
I love that bit in there because Englehart is clearly being like, this guy's fucking nuts. It doesn't matter how much money you give him. He doesn't give a shit about the money. It's not about the money. It's about sending a message.
Yes, exactly.
So Bruce wants to investigate as Batman, but he's got the date. And he has a voiceover saying, this is why I don't let myself get close to anybody. Because of the fact it might hold him back. But he reasons the best way to protect Silver is to stay close to her. And it seems like he's going to regret this, considering what's about to happen at this circus. So Silver confesses her fears to Bruce about the Joker, and Bruce tells her that no harm will come to her while he's around. And together, they share their first kiss at the circus. Yes.
Daw.
Again, it's kind of shades of Batman Forever, since we got the whole date at the circus thing as well. So... Anyway, the Flying Graysons perform. You know what happens here. John Grayson laughs himself to death due to the Joker venom. But Batman doesn't show up immediately like in the other version. It's Bruce this time who meets Dick at the site of his parents' deaths and sees a greenish oil slick on John Grayson's face. When Gordon asks Silver to give him a tour of the area to investigate, Bruce changes into costume and becomes Batman. Batman goes into the dressing room of the Graysons. He even asks for directions from the circus members on the way, which seems like a little bit of a weird beat. But again, this is Englehart's more, public Batman type. But Batman finds the makeup jars, and one says, free samples from Bread and Circus's theatrical supplies, with an address to the place. So he clearly suspects this makeup was poison that caused John Grayson to die. Silver and Gordon arrive to find Batman, and Silver meets Batman for the first time here. Batman tells them, make sure no one touches the makeup. And this is where he then flirts with Silver St. Cloud and comments on her lovely smile, just like in the previous treatment. A GCPD officer says, hey, the Grayson kid said the same thing about avoiding the makeup. And Batman's like, where is he? And now he's got to chase after this kid because the kid wants to find the one who killed his parents and goes to that address that's on the makeup jar. So Dick ends up getting attacked by a bunch of, thieves and lowlives and stuff who tried to attack him, but Batman arrives to help and interrogates them to find out what's going on. It turns out the Joker rented the address that's on the makeup jar, which is number 66, potential reference to Batman 66? Who knows? But yeah, he hired a bunch of them to put all the gunk in the makeup jars, but that's about it. So again, more Batman detective work here in terms of figuring out where the Joker is.
And Joker using cosmetics to kill people.
That's
just
true.
Like in 89.
That's true.
Yeah.
Very good point, Zach. Batman tells them to stay away from kids from now on, and then tells Dick, well, that was impressive, but he should leave the fighting to the professionals. And Dick tells him that he's not going to stop. He's going to find the man responsible for his parents' deaths. And I guess that's enough to... that's not quite enough to convince Batman, but he's just like, all right, well, I'm going to take you home. So he puts Dick in the Batmobile and then drives in the Batmobile only for them to get attacked by 4 cars full of the Joker's men. So this is where we put the Batmobile chase. And Joker is in a helicopter overhead, just surveying the whole thing. Batman's able to evade all of them, and Joker's frustrated in the helicopter, and the pilot makes some joke about how the men who work for him are incompetent. And Joker's like, you're exactly right, and he shoves him out of the helicopter and kills him.
I like it.
Yeah. Batman is impressed by Dick being able to keep his calm under danger, so he decides to blindfold him and take him to the Batcave once again. In this version, he takes him through an abandoned subway tunnel that leads to the Batcave, so that's kind of cool. So now we're in the Batcave. Batman and Dick analyze the Joker's makeup contains green mamba poison and hydrogen trichloride. The Bat computer gives information on all dealers of the chemicals in 200 miles, and Batman decides to take a chance on this kid. And here he unmasks himself, revealing himself as Bruce Wayne. So it's a little rushed in comparison to the previous one, I gotta admit. Because this is all the same night. Dick's parents die. They end up in the car chase together. He takes us to the Batcave, then unveils himself as Bruce Wayne. All here. But he offers to help Dick fulfill his vow to avenge his parents, as well as give Dick a new home and a new family. Dick seems overwhelmed and stumbles towards Batman to hug him, and this is his new dad, his new surrogate dad now. So it's kind of a sweet moment. The next day, Bruce goes on a romantic date with Silver, where he feels that his world was very solid and controlled until the day he met her. But he likes this new life that's opened up before him. So, similar to what Sam Hamm said about his intention for the script for 89, where he saw Batman as insane. So the opposite of how Englehart sees him. He sees Batman as insane, but this relationship with Vicky in that script was what turns him sane. And how does he deal with that? Especially because, being insane is what helps him become Batman, was kind of the general idea for 89. I don't know if it really comes across in the final film so much, because I don't think that relationship is as central compared to his original script, but we're dealing with similar ideas here. If you're going to have a love interest in this first Batman movie, it should be somebody who Bruce cares about, obviously. Yeah. So it makes sense to me that they would cover similar beats. I don't think Hamm necessarily was drawing off of the Strange Apparitions arc for that. Because if you think about it, like, girl who makes Bruce question himself, question getting close to people, ends up finding out his secret identity, that's not really something that, like, sure, Englehart might have covered that first in the comics, but you don't necessarily have to read that comic in order to figure out that could be a story. So, we then get similar beats to the previous treatment. Dick Grayson in the room, learning about Bruce's training. Same stuff, however, Englehart adds that the original Bat computer is a battered Apple IIc.
The most high-tech
yes.
computer imaginable.
I want the state-of-the-art shit.
Only the best, Alfred.
Back on the date, Bruce does the same thing where he slips to Silver the whole thing about her having a beautiful smile, like he said as Batman. This time, they get confronted by three hoodlums and the Joker. So this ups the stakes considerably. Joker reveals that Silver actually did pay him the extortion money after the death of the Graysons in order to keep everyone else from dying. Bruce gets pissed at this and tries to fight the Joker, and it's Joker this time who stabs Bruce in the forearm with the knife. Joker then says that Bruce is the next target. Bruce again goes back to the Batcave. Yeah. And Dick, he's like, how am I supposed to do this? Because this relationship with Silver is holding me back. And Dick comes out saying that I'm going to help you. And this is where he shows up as Robin, just like in the previous one. There are some added beats here. Dick says, you're the bat and I'm the bird. Bruce figures out that Alfred helped him with the costume, which again feels like Batman Forever. Remember, who's your tailor?
I took the
Yes, exactly. But Alfred points out, hey, if you had the skills and had an older person working with you, you would have begun your mission as early as he would have. That would have been you. And Bruce is like, you're right. And so he allows Dick to be Robin. And now we got Batman, Robin, and Alfred in the Batcave. They work together and they try to develop an antidote for the Joker venom, because they know that Joker is going to attack Bruce next. And the closest they can come up with is, quote, a covering of non-porous plastic and all exposed skin, plus skin-tight clothing beneath normal attire, plus nose filters.
Rubber lips are immune to your charms.
Again, Englehart is highlighting the scientist aspect to Batman, as well as the detective stuff. Robin says, hey, if we get it wrong, though, you're going to die. And Batman says, that's what this life is about. Like, he knows the risks. Night falls on Wayne Manor, and there's a thunderstorm. And Bruce insists that Alfred stay in the Batcave for his safety, because he has gotten another note from the Joker himself, an extortion note that has come in over here. And the note says,
put $37,203.92 in your shirt before midnight and jump around on the front lawn squawking like a chicken, and your world will still go crazy.
So He's basically like, hey, give me the money and I'll still kill you. Is kind of what it sounds like. Silver at this point calls Bruce, and she's worried about him. Bruce tells her he'll be fine, and he can't explain it, but he knows that this is going to be over. Silver decides that's not enough and decides to head to Wayne Manor. Back at Wayne Manor, the Joker... This is really interesting. Joker enters the study through the same window that the bat flew in the opening.
Oh, they highlight that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Englehart highlights that, yeah. I'm like, that's such a cool idea, because I never thought about, like, the villain uses the study window, that important study window from canon.
Yeah.
Never thought about that. Joker plans to attack all the wealthiest in the city with the extortion racket that he's come up with, and he squirts Joker venom in Bruce's face. So Bruce is down, and then Robin arrives, and quote-unquote gets his licks in to avenge his parents.
So let's talk about the window thing real quick, though. Is that supposed to be like... just to highlight, just as the bat was a major event in your life, so am I. I'm going to be a big thing for you.
I think so.
Is that basically it?
Yeah, because it seems like you would want there to be something besides like an "oh cool" type of thing. You know, like it's something that has a thematic resonance to that. So
he's defiling that area too.
That too.
Just the fact that he's using it against him.
Mm-hmm.
And he would take offense to this probably. Batman
Bruce
would.
No, the thing is, Joker
on top of everything else, of course.
Joker wouldn't know the importance of that, but it is interesting that Englehart highlights this.
That's cool.
So Robin fights Joker, quote unquote, gets his licks in to avenge his parents. That happens here. Bruce then turns into Batman because he's been protected by the antidote they devised, and Batman fights Joker, but it's his wound from Joker's knife in the forearm that causes him to bleed. Joker runs off, and Batman and Robin chase after him, only to find Silver, who's arrived at Wayne Manor, worried about Bruce. Batman tells Silver that Bruce isn't here, but Bruce is still bleeding as Batman. So Silver can tell that because the forearm's bleeding, that cements that he and Batman are the same, and she follows Batman and Robin after the Joker. There's a chase, and Joker radios a helicopter to meet him at his destination, which is another thing that made it into 89. And our final set piece, I believe the ending is a lot better than the previous one, because we have a final set piece at an abandoned amusement park area called Finger Island, which is really Coney Island, but Finger Island is named after Bill Finger.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. All right.
And they chase Joker onto a Ferris wheel that ends up going off, and the final fight takes place with them jumping on the different cars. Similar beats to them fighting, except now on the Ferris wheel cars, and it's a thunderstorm. So you got lightning, thunder, the carnival music, Batman versus Joker, Joker cackling, and that type of stuff. Eventually, I
could see the producers being like, "Why is it called Finger Island? That's a little weird." and then Englehart's like, has to explain the whole fucking thing.
Yes, Kane's a better name. He's the creator of Batman, right?
Yeah.
Lightning ends up striking the Joker, which is like in the sign of the Joker, and it strikes him while he's climbing the ladder of the helicopter. So he ends up falling from the helicopter ladder, like in 89, and lands in the water, like in Sign of the Joker. Because the lightning hits so closely to the helicopter gets a terminal short circuit and ends up crashing into the water as well.
Okay.
Batman then meets with Silver, who brings up that she knows that he's Batman, but she can't bring herself to continue being in a relationship with him, never knowing what each night will bring after seeing him put himself in danger right now. This is basically right out of the comic, The Sign of the Joker, as well as the exact same dialogue. Englehart is just like, well, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. This happens, she gives him one last kiss, and then she leaves him, and Batman is left alone. So this is different from the previous one. So as Andrew said, like, it's kind of weird for Batman to be like, well, I reject the love of this, fantastic woman so that I can be with this kid. And in this version, she makes that choice. She takes that choice away from him. He could have had that life, but he's not able to have it due to the nature of what it is. It's the Batman life interfering, but that choice is kind of out of his hands, which you could argue that makes it a little bit less about his character choice. But I think either way, the same result happens. He's not with Silver at the end.
Yeah, if they take this ending, put it on the last one, I think it's the perfect script, maybe. Yeah. For some, like, this one was good. Mm-hmm. Are you at the end?
We're pretty much towards the end, yeah.
We're at the thoughts?
Yeah.
Sorry to jump ahead, Zach. But this one, for some reason, the first one, I think, resonated a little better until the end. So yeah, if they combine those two, like the ending of this one, yeah, this would have been the perfect Englehart script.
Yeah. So Silver leaves him alone after rejecting him, and Robin arrives, and Batman says, "This is your life now, Robin, the way it is mine." And they go into the Batmobile and take off. No Catwoman tease, nothing. They just take off into the night because he's resigned himself to this life of being alone and just only having the life of a crime fighter. And that is Steve Englehart's Batman 1986 treatment. What do you guys think?
Same comments apply, Zach.
I do agree with Andrew. I do feel like that ending was better. It felt more appropriate for the Joker, but I also I felt like the first draft had a more fleshed out origin for Robin. I mean, this one, we talked about it. It did feel really abrupt that he was just at the circus and then, hey, I'm Batman, and this is, now I'm Robin.
True, yeah.
I did, now I don't know if this one had it because you didn't go into it, but I did like how there was less thematic elements about like the bread and all that stuff. I did think that was a little bit like, I don't know. It just felt a little bit out of place for the Joker.
Yeah, I'm torn because it's just like I think it's the plan is a little better in this one, but also it's a little typical with the extortion stuff.
But it feels more like the traditional Joker of like the first issue where he's threatening to kill people, and I kind of like that. But I would have liked to have seen him start out at the circus too. Like, you know, I think there's elements from both of them that are really strong, and like we said, there is a lot of it that does seem like it still got used in Batman 89. But overall, I think they're both enjoyable. They both feel, aside from the ending where it is very much him borrowing from himself, it does feel like it could have been like a Batman comic in some areas rather than a Batman movie.
Yeah. That's the main thing, where it doesn't quite feel like it's reached the cinematic feel as the other scripts, and that's because he's a comic book writer, you know, like it's understandable on this. But yeah, I'd say there are some connections to the final film. We got Joker attacking an art museum in the first one. We got Joker shooting Bruce in the second one. You got Joker using the whole cosmetic thing to kill John Grayson in the second one. Joker radioing his escape, the helicopter thing, falling at the very end. Batman falling in love and her finding out that he's Batman and figuring that out. Those are the main things, but I wouldn't say that the movie is that much of an adaptation of this specific thing. You know, I wouldn't go as far as what he says about how like Ham was drawing off of his specific stuff. A few elements they have in common, and I'm not really convinced that they're stuff that Ham wouldn't have been able to come up with on his own. Because we also have to factor in 50 years at this point in time of Batman comics to draw off of, different tropes, different things, and different things that you would expect to be in a superhero movie, or just a movie that you're adapting this before the genre was even taken off. Where just like, we can't just have just some random Julie Madison type character. We need to have somebody who has some resonance to Bruce's life.
It is interesting that he really wanted Robin to be in it from the get-go too.
Well, yeah, he didn't really want to do that, but the studio demanded it. He says in the, funny enough, in the opening of Strange Apparitions, the comic, he said that he tried to argue, unsuccessfully, he thought at the time, against including both Penguin and Robin. And I guess he won out with Penguin, because Penguin's not in the treatments, but Robin's definitely in it. He just felt that just keep it to Batman versus Joker and have Silver St. Cloud in there. So he kind of won out in the end. But it wasn't with the script.
He did a much better job of incorporating Robin in the first draft.
I would say so. He probably did the best job out of anybody related to the 89 production. Because like Mankiewicz kind of throws him in towards the end.
Is that the one that is like the storyboard sequence that's included in the special features?
That's the Sam Hamm one. That's the Sam Hamm one, yeah.
Yeah, that was just like, I guess we're driving through a circus now, and there's Robin. Whoops, this happens.
It's like, if we gotta shove him in, I guess we could do it this way. Like, that's what it feels like.
Yeah.
But yeah, Englehart, hands down, has the best Robin origin, I think, out of all these.
Absolutely.
And then we got important parts of Batman history built into this treatment. We've got Robin drawing the costume off of the acrobat stuff. That comes from this. Gordon being around and comforting Bruce sometime after the death of his parents. That comes from this.
Professor Finger.
Professor Kane, yeah.
Professor Kane.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Well, adding to learn how to be a detective as well as a fighter. If they had enough time in the movie, I mean that take that part from that draft too, put that in the other one.
Yeah.
That would be cool as well. Maybe not make it, before the opening titles, but yeah, that'd be cool. Also, if you combine the two, you would have like the awesome circus set piece in the middle or the first act, probably into first act, and then you'd have that awesome like stormy whatever one at the end. Yeah, talk about two great set pieces for a Batman film.
Yeah,
it'd be killer. It would be killer.
I just love the idea of cutting to the title with the bat flying into the window.
Yeah,
like what Zach was talking about.
That's good.
And
good.
Imagine the any of the themes, the Elfman theme as it closes on his face, or even the Giacchino theme for the Batman coming out. Like either one of those.
It would be great. Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that is our exclusive into the Steve Englehart treatment. So thank you for joining us, and that is superhero stuff you should know. So we have a few fan comments that we're going to pull up real quick on here, and
don't you know it?
We're going to start with James Brickner. James says, "Amazing, Ben. I had that tape as well." He's talking about the actual. He's talking about the actual '89 VHS tape. He said, "I had that tape as well, and I did the exact same thing. We had the same tape with the origin story, the Untold Legend of the Batman. I too have the VHS to this day, just for the taste of it. Diet Coke. This is my favorite movie." So awesome, James. So we have another comment from Chris. It says, quote, "Hey, Chris here. I am a huge fan of the podcast and look forward to anything you guys do in the future." Awesome, thank you. But I was hoping to make a request about a deep dive for a movie, or it's technically a 3-part episode. I was hoping you guys could cover the Batman-Superman movie, World's Finest. It's essentially 3 episodes from Superman the Animated... We know. The Superman the Animated Series. And I think it really captures how good a Batman-Superman team-up can be. I think we can all agree here it's pretty much the best interpretation of Batman-Superman meeting and teaming up.
Yeah, probably, yeah.
Wouldn't need 3 parts to know that.
It is the one where the Joker and Lex Luthor team up, which I think also shows how desperate Luthor is. I refer to it as a movie because I originally had it on DVD when I was younger, but I haven't got a chance to see it in years. But it is great from what I can remember. So hopefully at some point you guys can cover this at some point. I also think it would be cool if you guys covered other Batman-Superman team-ups like Apocalypse or Public Enemies, because they just show how well that Batman-Superman team-up can be across multiple movies. I think the best way to cover the Batman-Superman movie, World's Finest, would be just covering the general evolution of the different meetings of Batman and Superman, which I do have drafted in notes for an upcoming episode.
Nice.
So you've already got that in mind. And we'll do some sort of comics versus movie thing for Public Enemies and Apocalypse, because we want to cover everything.
I would be interested to know, like, did they always hate each other at first? I assume that's kind of a thing that might have happened a little bit after the comics evolved a bit. Mm-hmm. Probably at first they were like, "I'm Bruce, I'm Clark, let's be friends." I don't know.
Remember the radio show?
Yeah,
when we covered that. That was the first time they teamed up. So yeah, that's
okay.
That was kind of how it started off. But of course, you got some friendly rivalries and then not so friendly rivalries, and then you got Frank Miller having him kick Superman's chin, like that type of stuff. So
yeah. Boot to the face, beyond.
Kick him right on the chin.
I've been stretching for this.
All right.
This one move.
Last one is from Sparkageddon 318. Thank you again, Sparkageddon. It says, "Say, bro, when y'all have time, can y'all do a deep dive in the fan-made Tim Burton Batman universe? I think you would be pleased. You would please, though, WB forced him to take it down." Okay, so the YouTube link is a link to the... have you guys seen this? This is a video game mock-up of a Burtonverse video game.
Okay.
I think the best way to do this is to see if we can get that guy on the show.
That would be
cool.
Because I see a lot of different reaction videos to this, and I'm just like, okay, like that's kind of already covered. I think for us to actually dive into it, we would best find out what went into it, what was behind it, what stuff covered, what particular things were important to convey that thing. So, Spark again, or anybody in the comments section, let us know who that person is, or if you happen to know how to contact them, and we'll see if we can get that for you.
That's cool. So there was a Burtonverse video game that like passed NES era?
No, like this was recently.
This is a mock-up.
This is a recent one. Wow.
It's done like in the same type of the quality is just as good as the Arkham games in terms of the graphics and the animation and stuff. So, yeah, that is the final comment. Over to you, Andrew.
Okay. Thanks for those comments, everybody, and we'd like to thank our Patreon supporters who are Shasta, Leom O, Jose Arrocha, Super Inframan, Douglas P, Dan D, Aaron Willett, Nick Noir, Jesse E, Jeffrey R, Scott V, Askers Webb, and Jeremy H. And we'd like to thank our other supporters, Sparkageddon, SDCT Productions, Robert Schumann, Kooky Noms, Matt Herring, Elijah B, Shamrock Balls, Ian H, Walter the Wobot, John Wells, and Rye Guy. Please join the Shasta Army. That's our $1 tier, gets you the shout out. But then also the $5 tier gets you a whole new show every Friday, everybody. Deeper dives. Join the club. We're having fun down there in Patreon world. And Zach's on it. So it's a little bit less fun, but
We're trying to get them to come on, Andrew.
Oh yeah, no, it's more fun. It's more fun. Yeah, you're right. Please check out our merch as well at superhousepod.redbubble.com and also superherostuffpod.threadless.com. Get your Bin Man and Indeed Wizard mugs, and we're going to have Zacula art. That's Joker, Joker, Dracula, Zack. We're going to have art for that. All the art is by Wolfie Cruz there. So, mugs, shirts, shower curtains, whatever you want. Let us know if there's something that you want that's not in the store. Also, speaking of store, we have a new fucking website too, superherostuffpod.com. Complete redesign, overhaul. Ben's doing a lot of work with the show notes as well, so check that out. Supplemental material, as well as just an overall description of what went on in every episode, so check that out. And please leave us a review on iTunes. Please record us a listener segu. That's an audio bumper. It can be anything, no matter how silly, and send that to superhousepodcast@gmail.com. Please animate our sketches. Just hashtag it, please, and let us know that you did it. My website actually has changed also to thunderwolfdrew.com, so that has all of my portfolio and shit like that. Check that out. All my videos and my photos. And I'm still in pre-production right now for something called Amano Recon. AMANO Recon. That's RECON. AmanoRecon.com. Check it out. See what we're doing there. Basically, it's an R-rated sci-fi horror comedy show. And think basically Power Rangers meets Ash versus the Evil Dead meets X-Files. So it's all there, and we're excited about that. And that's it. Ben.
Another shout out to Comic Capital on Instagram, as well as the Everything Entertainment Club on Clubhouse, which I helped join to discuss Marvel stuff. Yes, I do talk about Marvel stuff, everybody, every now and then.
Wow.
I know. Though we might have something Marvel related coming up. Just to give you a quick
man.
tease.
We've
our
talked
Twitter,
about video essays in this episode, haven't we?
Yes. Our Twitter is SuperhousePod. Our Instagram, Superhero Stuff Pod. Our TikTok, Superhero Stuff Pod. Our Vero, Superhero Stuff Pod. And our new website.
Vero. I love that we're on Vero. I can never get over it because it has one single purpose.
And our official website, Superhero Stuff Pod now. No longer Superhouse Pod. We'll be updating, the links in past episodes as well. But you guys heard it here first in this episode. My website is benwanwriter.com. My YouTube channel is in the description below, where this week I will be launching a video containing a little clip from the podcast in terms of my take on why Dick Grayson picks the name Robin. Also, you can check out the kids comic I worked on, Early Bird, at earl-e-bird.com. My personal Instagram is benwanwriter. My son's Instagram, my cat, Alfred, is at Alfie Pennyworth Cat, which leads me to bring up that if you have a furry Alfred, or any sort of cat, and you want to give them some goodies from month to month, join Whiskerbox. We are affiliates with Whiskerbox, and if you have no cats, but you have dogs, well, we're affiliates with Barkbox as well, as you probably heard in that bumper we did. Just check out superherostuffpod.com/shop, which contains the links where you can take advantage of that. In the meantime, over to Zach.
If you would like to see more of my work, like you see behind Ben's shoulder right now, you can go to ZacharyJacksonBrownArt.com, and you can also follow me on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube. Just search Zachary Jackson Brown Art.
Awesome.
And that's it.
I'm going to give you this one, bro. There you go, man.
It's roomier up here. Wow. I can see Ben over there.
For the listener, I moved his little video screen up over mine. So, yeah. I gave you the last 2 minutes of the episode, so.
So, those of you who are part of the $5 Patreon, we're going to, we covered this week on another origin of Robin, but we're going to go into what happened when Dick Grayson became Batman, as we cover the animated movie Batman Bad Blood. No relation to the Taylor Swift song. So, hello to Zach's cat over there.
Ruin everything.
Is it he or she?
She.
She's been in the episode quite a bit, actually.
Yes, she has.
But I want you to do me a favor.
I want you to tell all your friends about us.
That's acceptable.
Indeed.
Superhero Stuff You Should Know is part of the Greenlit Podcast Network.